Welcome back down to ringside. It's time for the Intercontinental Championship to be on the line. It's the American Dragon, Bryan Danielson, and Mr. Perfect. What an exciting technical contest we should be in store for here this week. Let's take it down to the ring for the introductions. The American Dragon, Bryan Danielson, stepping foot back into a WWE 2K22 ring. The last time we saw him in a WWE 2K ring, he had an entirely different name. But he's here this week to surely put on a technical display against one of the greatest to ever lace up their boots and hold the Intercontinental Championship, and that is none other than Mr. Perfect. Here he comes. Mr. Perfect, Curt Hennig, one of the greatest to ever lace up their boots, one of the greatest to ever hold the Intercontinental Championship. And to those of you who have followed Bloody Bill Vox, your host, that's me, on social media, you know that I have repeatedly cited Mr. Perfect and the Texas Tornado at SummerSlam 1990 as being the match that got my attention when it came to not only professional wrestling, but also to the Intercontinental Championship. It was in that moment that I realized the big larger-than-life stars like the Hulk Hogans and the Ultimate Warriors and the Randy Savages and the Andre the Giants, they were going to be the World Heavyweight Champions of the world. But there was these other colorful cast of characters that were going to make up what I would later find out was known as the middle of the card. But to me, it was the Intercontinental Championship division. And Mr. Perfect and the Texas Tornado at SummerSlam 1990 basically are the reasons I became such a fan of that title and such a fan of the original design. Of course, you see there the modern design of the Intercontinental Championship. Depending on which circles you talk to, folks either love it or they hate it. I personally like the look of the current Intercontinental Championship. There really has never been an Intercontinental title that I did not enjoy. I wasn't initially a fan of the more oval-shaped title that replaced the classic Intercontinental Championship in the 2000s, but it definitely grew on me, and it is now up there in terms of a favorite design. But enough about belt design love, because we could literally do an entire show talking about favorite belt designs. Let's get into calling the action, as Bryan Danielson says, hey, you should be calling this action, as he just drove that knee into the side of the head of Mr. Perfect before trying to rip the arm out of the socket, and then using a play out of the playbook of Mr. Perfect. Now he's got that leg vice locked on, going for the early submission, but Mr. Perfect says, no way, my friend. Kicks him right in the head. Nice snap suplex by Mr. Perfect. You gotta love when you're talking and you can feel like you're gonna need to clear your throat in the near future, so maybe you need to have your finger on a mute button nearby, but then all of a sudden as you're talking, your throat goes and clears yourself. Yeah, it messes up your speech for a hot minute, but your throat is clear when it's all said and done. That's what just happened there a few lines back there. It was all like, yeah, that's exactly what happened, because now I don't have to clear my throat, even though I just made a noise like I was clearing my throat. Oh! I wouldn't have to clear my throat on that one. It was for dramatic purposes, entertainment purposes, if you will. Not sports entertainment, just entertainment. Mr. Perfect, he's got him up, and big-time pile driver. These boys are coming out of the gate hot and heavy. They are not wasting any time pulling out the big plays. Danielson going for early submissions. Mr. Perfect just devastating offense. These guys want to put it away early. And the winner walks away with the Intercontinental Championship, that modern design, and of course, whoever it is that walks away with the Intercontinental Championship here in this match, anytime they are in action on Fantasy Warfare going forward, they will defend that championship. It's going to get to a point where we're going to have nothing but title matches every week, but that's okay, because that's fantasy, baby. Fantasy is fun. We don't have to worry about conventional wrestling rules here in Fantasy Warfare. We just go out there and put the matches on. Titles, no titles, gimmicks, no gimmicks, doesn't matter. Whatever we can dream up, whatever I can think of. whatever the viewers can think of. That's what we present here in Fantasy Warfare. Doesn't matter if it makes sense always. Mr. Perfect now showing Bryan Danielson how you do it. Taking the play back for his playbook. Perfect neck breaker on Bryan Danielson, but only a count of 2. Perfect now heading up to the top rope. Danielson down. Oh, nice. Devastating flying knee drop by Mr. Perfect, but Bryan Danielson counters with a kick to the head. Mr. Perfect back up on his feet with an offense that included knife edge chops, hard jabs, and uppercuts. Oh, damn. The running knee out of nowhere. This could be all for Mr. Perfect. It's not. He is busted wide open, though. That knee just came in and nearly caved his skull in. As the beginning of Bryan Danielson's theme says, you're going to get your head kicked in. Apparently, in this case, it was you're going to get your head caved in. Danielson repeatedly going back to that leg vice. Very smart, though, because if you take away one of the legs of Mr. Perfect, he's going to have a very hard time delivering the perfect plexes. Danielson, I don't know what the hell he was thinking of that one. He did a flying knee drop and jumped out about 2 inches. Perfect plex by Mr. Perfect. He's into the cover. And only a count of 2. Certainly won't see the cliche line, I've never seen anybody kick out of the perfect plex, but I'll be damned if I can cite somebody right now, so I'll tell you that much. The perfect plex is kicked out of so little that I can't even tell you the last time that happened. Which would be a much more sensible commentary line for people to give instead of always saying, I've never seen anybody kick out of that one. Hey pal, it actually happened 14 times last year. Bryan Danielson tried to literally choke the life out of Mr. Perfect in the corner before going into a cover, and now it looks like he's going for the label lock. Yes, he is, but the rope break saves Mr. Perfect on that one. Irish whip sends Perfect into the corner. Back elbow by Mr. Perfect on Bryan Danielson. Snap mare going for the perfect neck breaker again. Yes, he is. Usually not too long after we see that one, we end up seeing the perfect plex again, but as we saw just a few moments ago, Danielson was able to kick out of the first attempt at the perfect plex. Will he be so lucky the second time? Mr. Perfect's got him hooked. No, this time it's countered. Northern Lights suplex. No pin attempt by Danielson out of the Northern Lights. I think that was a little bit of a mistake on his part. I think he should have gone for the cover right out of it instead of waiting, as Mr. Perfect only kicks out of the count of 2. I think that one cost him. Trying for the label lock again, but he's very close to the ropes. And Mr. Perfect is able to get a hand under the ropes again. I'm not sure what's going on here with Bryan Danielson. Usually he is a little smarter-minded in the ring here. But it certainly would appear that he's having a hard time with ring presence in this one. And he is now taking those frustrations out on Mr. Perfect. But Mr. Perfect says, hey, don't take those out on me, and kicks Danielson in the back of his head. Driving that knee and shin down across the arm of Danielson. That could start making it hard to lock in the label lock. Tough to grip when your arms hurt. Oh, clubbing shot to the back drops Danielson to the floor as referee in position in a count of 1 and a count of 2 and a count of no 3. No 3 on that one as Danielson's able to kick out. Mr. Perfect with those insulting stomps. Oh, nobody home. Danielson moved out of the way of that one and sends Mr. Perfect up over the top rope and down to the floor. Good thing Bill Watts doesn't book Fantasy Warfare. That would have been a disqualification. What a shame it would be to have this match end on a disqualification after the barn burner that it has been, as Danielson is trying to light up Perfect on the floor with kicks, but apparently super forearm strike again. Danielson lifting Perfect to his feet. Now getting back into the ring. All right, that was interesting. Now back out to the floor. Okay. Thigh shot by Danielson hit, but the second one did not, and Danielson gets sent right into the ring steps. Mr. Perfect taunting Danielson from the ring. Danielson not moving on the floor. As Mr. Perfect goes back out to the floor, Danielson ducks that knife edge chop. Throws Mr. Perfect across the ringside area, and Mr. Perfect just takes a tumble. And decides to pose for a minute, and he pays for it with a hard knife edge chop and then a European uppercut by Bryan Danielson. But he returns fire with a knife edge chop of his own on Danielson, who misses a kick. Pile driver on the floor by Mr. Perfect. That cannot bode well for the neck and the skull of Bryan Danielson. Referee reaches the 4 count as Mr. Perfect re-enters the ring and breaks the count to go back out to the floor. Kicks and knife edge chops by Bryan Danielson, and he gets his leg taken out from behind him, and Mr. Perfect just barely missed hitting that bottom step corner. That could have been a devastating gash right in the back. Referee reaching 4 once again here in this contest. Danielson tapping out on the floor, but it does not matter at all because this is not a Falls Count Anywhere match, but you did just see it. Danielson tapping out to that knee to the back clutch. Certainly not how Mr. Perfect wanted that to play out. I'm sure he would have rather that tap out been in the ring. As the action once again back on the floor. If these guys wanted to brawl on the floor, I feel like maybe they should have asked the management for a Falls Count Anywhere. Then at least that way, them fighting on the floor would make a world more sense. But it makes no sense here considering titles cannot be won via count out and disqualification. And I'm not quite sure how this WWE 2K22 world would handle it. Knowing this world, knowing this game, it'd probably be enough to crash the whole damn thing. Like, it would just evaporate. My game disc would go, be gone. Be like, see you later. We're out of here. And to nobody's surprise at all, I'm sure, the action once again back on the floor as Mr. Perfect re-enters the ring. And he calls for Danielson to come back in the ring. Danielson back in. Mr. Perfect catches him. He grabs him, hooks him up. He's got him. Perfect plex. Caught Danielson coming in. Perfect plex. And that is enough as Mr. Perfect wins the match. Catching him out of nowhere with the perfect plex. I think he lured him into that one. Danielson came running back into the ring. He got caught. He got hooked. He got pinned. What a contest here with Mr. Perfect coming out on top, but the action will continue in just a few moments when we come back for our next contest. It's going to be a battle of the men in their face paint. It'll be Demon Finn Balor going one-on-one with the Great Muta when we come back here on Fantasy Warfare.